The Producer Spotlight with Mr. Instro.
You can be a beat maker and not be a music producer. But when you're a music producer, you don't have to be a beat maker.
Only on the element.
Only on the elements. It's just gone 29 minutes before we hit 7 o'clock. You're plugged in on Massiv Metro with myself, Aziza, the Pristine Queen. I hold you down every weekday from 6 until 8 p.m. And I do it all for the love of hip-hop. On a Wednesday, I have an incredible producer come kick it with me and we talk all things production. His name is Mr. Instro and he's going to be holding us down on the Producer Spotlight until we hit 7:30. Normally, this is where I sing. I give it. That's that's just where we at, bruh. You know, you're still serving your you're still serving your time for your crime.
But you didn't sing last week.
Yeah, who said I was only not going to sing Khaiwan Hell? It was a big crime.
What do you mean? Me telling
crime.
you that you need to fix your pitch. Come on. How are you gonna learn if you, what? No, it's fine. Do
you know what it's like?
What?
Let me tell you what it's like. It's like if I pull up and I've bought you a car and I've bought you a Ford Fiesta and you're like, give regular focus.
Where would I have said that?
That's how it made me feel. It made me feel like you don't appreciate my gift. May I just go around singing for everybody, Mr. Instro?
No, you know the best example to put is like, okay, you get me a Ford Fiesta and I say, oh man, I'm gonna put in some rims. I'm gonna put in some rims in this Fiesta, and you get offended.
It's not like that.
Yeah, that's how it is. I'm saying the rimi mo, and you're like, no, you want me to drive it the way it is. That's what's happening here.
No, not at all. Not at all. I refute that.
I'm trying to help you. That's the thing. I'm trying to help you to sing.
Who asked you to help me?
But when you introduced me, you said producer extraordinaire. Okay, that's what we do. You know.
Do you know what it's like? It's like all you people who can cook. Then someone invites you over to their crib and they make you a nice homemade meal out of the goodness of their heart, and you're like, Marangebo can say some rosemary. No, go eat at your house.
Okay, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, I just want you to know that you've done it to me in this particular setting. But you did not plug in to hear me and Mr. Instro going at each other because we could do this all night. 27 minutes to go. It's the Producer's Spotlight. And just like we do every week, we've got an incredible producer that we are going to be looking at. And wait again, I'm very rude. How are you, Mr. Instro?
I'm fantastic. I'm just a little fatigued. It's been quite a long day. You know, like when you function after a public holiday, you know, even when you were working, you know, the public holiday vibes still kind of like are still catching up with you. So yeah, like I think I'll get into the swing of things like properly. Today I was playing catch up the whole day, you know, but like we're here, I survived it, and we're about to talk about somebody who's like really, really incredible. So I'm excited about that.
All right, so who are we looking at this evening? Okay,
so our producer for this week is none other than Washington DC's own Oddisee. Okay.
You were saying?
Yes. Very well respected, very cool producer. He's pretty much changed the way I see things. And like, you know, man, Aziz, it's crazy that I've been I've been feeling a little negative about, you know, this whole producer thing.
Right.
In the sense that I always feel like, and I like to preach this, you know, for us to be movie directors, you know, to branch out and everything. And man, Oddisee sort of like made me see a different view, you know. He came out in a different light. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. Like he made me see this production thing in a different light. Said very early on in his life, just before we properly like introduce him, right? Like I think this is important. He said that in the beginning he told himself, he was like, okay, cool, I am in love with this music thing. Okay, I am in love with it, and I'm making a conscious decision, a commitment to make a living off of it.
Right.
Okay, whatever this music thing requires me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. And that thing just like, it struck something in me.
Right.
Because we worry so much about livelihood. We worry so much about the things that are happening around us that we start panicking and go, no, this music thing can't the only thing. This music thing, it needs to have a backup. Now we start sounding like our parents, back in the day.
Right.
Them saying, you need a backup plan. Exactly. It's a backup plan. This music thing is nice. We support you and all that, but like, you need something to fall back on. That's what they like to say. You need something to fall back on.
Amen.
And his confidence just blew me away. I'm like, yo, man, even say, he made that commitment. I mean, that just blew me away. And I feel like I need to, tell producers that listen to this show regularly that I apologize if it comes across like I have been skeptical about a career in production.
Right.
We can still be those guys, but if you feel the passion and if you know deep down inside of you that you are capable and you are skilled enough, I don't see why you can't have a career just as a music producer, because we live in an age that is so beautiful now that I don't have to think about South Africa in terms of my market,
right?
In terms of the people that I'm gonna sell my music to. So that kind of like just brought such a big aha moment for me, that like, yeah, actually, if you want to produce and if you're serious about it, man, because it's you and you're unique, as much as the market can be saturated, nobody's like you.
That's facts.
So yeah, shout
facts.
out to Oddisee for bringing that to the light.
All right, so the person who is responsible for Mr. Instro's aha moment for this evening, real name Amir Mohammed Al Khalifa, better known to us as Oddisee, the son of Sudanese and American parents. He was born and raised in the United States capital city of Washington, D.C. Growing up amidst the sounds of New York hip-hop, he took his first steps as an MC producer in the analog basement studio of his legendary neighbor Gary Scheider from Parliament Funkadelic.
Yep.
Now, this is who we're going to be looking at for this evening. We're going to do it until we hit 7:30. If you just joined us, please do take part in the conversation. We are on @Massiv Metro across social media platforms. Our hashtag for the show is #TheElement. Our hashtag for the segment is #Producer Spotlight. Tag @Queen Aziza, but even if you forget to tag me, actually tag @Mr_Instro. He is the professor for this evening. I've got my notebook, I've got my pen, and I'm super ready to find out why Oddisee is so incredibly important to us, the culture, and what we can learn from him. But before class is officially in session, we need to go get money, school fees. So we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to play you some Joey Badass, and then we get back into the conversation. It is The Element on the rocking, real, and relevant Massiv Metro. If you just walked in, good evening, and thank you for having chosen us. It is the Producer Spotlight, coming at you every Wednesday between 6:30 and 7:30 with myself, the Pristine Queen, and Mr. Instro holding us down every Wednesday, 6:30 to 7:30. I also just want to take a moment to send a shout out to @Percy_E2, always showing us love on social media. Tweeted earlier on that he's plugged in, and also it was his bar that I cheated on Marwan. I just yeah, look, not my finest. Joe, the dagger eyes. Okay, look, wait a king, ne? You know what's great about me as a person? I'm honest. I could have just come through. Stay. I could have just come
I thought I heard something else. I thought I heard something. You said what?
Aksabina ever.
Come on, you said
Aksabina
you
ever.
are honest, and I was like, what? that don't sound right.
So anyway, Mr. Instro, I'm honest.
Yes.
So I admitted to my bad behavior.
Oh, yeah.
I could have just come in and been like, yeah, guys, I got it. But that wasn't the case. So also, if you just wanted to find out why Mr. Instro is in the dog box, it's because of things that he just did now. Things like that. He does them often. He does them often. He does them on air. He does them off air. And I've just decided enough is enough. But it's not about myself and Mr. Instro and our sibling rivalry. It is about Oddisee. And what we can learn from him. So where are we going right now, Mr. Instro?
We're going earlier into his career, right? I think it's important to mention that the album that he sort of like listened to and he fell in love with hip hop, right, is A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders, right? That album is a special album, right? I can understand why he would say that would be the album, that would introduce him to the game, and like that actually makes me feel old. Like, how's spring chicken, Chomiak? I'm not, nah. I agree. But yeah, like that album has so many aspects of the music making process, and it has a prolific bunch of producers, Q-Tip, Dilla. Like it's one of those albums that you can really listen to when you're trying to define for yourself what hip hop really means,
right?
And I think one of the things that really blew me away is that he says that when he listened to Midnight Marauders, he heard himself.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah, he listened to that album and he heard himself, and like, man, case closed. You know what I mean? If you're hearing something and you immediately imagine yourself, especially when we're talking about music,
right? When
you immediately hear yourself doing what they're doing and immediately you want to emulate what they're doing, it's like it's game over. We know that that's where you're gonna want to do things. That's where your passion is gonna lie.
Right.
So big shout out to Oddisee for sharing that information. Another thing I mentioned earlier is that he said that as soon as he realized that he was in love with music, he was going to do anything to make sure that he was going to be able to finance himself, to live off of it, basically, right? And one of the first things that he did is he went on tour with J Live, right? As a merch guy.
Hey?
As a guy who sits at the side and sells the merch, right? And if there was time, then he'd get on stage and he would rap. And I mean, if that's not like, paying your dues,
wow,
I don't know what is. It's an incredible story, and it's things like that where you actually get the groundwork to see how things work. I mean, J Life is like, a prolific touring artist.
I'm going to make you hold it there for a second,
okay,
and then we're going to come back with that story.
Cool.
All right, 9 minutes to go before we hit 7 o'clock. Mr. Instro is in the middle of a beautiful story about J Live.
Yes. I mean, like I was saying, J Live is like, he's probably been all over the world.
Right.
I mean, he's been to SA. Oh, man.
Do you have another story?
No, I was actually gonna ask you if you saw J Live at Cool Out, because he once came to Cool Out.
Cool Outs are a bit hazy for me.
Okay. I know. Let's end it there. Let's keep it moving swiftly. Yeah. So J Live has been all over the world, and if you're fortunate enough to travel with him, I think there's a couple of things that you'll learn. And another thing about Oddisee is that his father is Sudanese,
yes,
right? So that means that he's got a connection not only with Africa, but he knows what it's like to be different in the United States of America. You know what I mean? As much as he was born there's a lot of cultural differences that they would experience. So it's also good as someone who's a musician to be able to document those kind of things, to have that, like, to know that, like, okay, the world isn't necessarily all rosy, you know, and I think it's a great responsibility to be able to document those things. And I think it's so important, you know, as a musician, to know your story, you know, to know why you're doing what you're doing. And he related a very beautiful story about how he's always felt like, you know, the titles are what people give him. It's not necessarily how he sees himself,
how he identifies himself.
Exactly, you know. And for me, that was so beautiful, because we're in an age where we're trying to get people to define what we do and how we are, especially as creatives. You know, you want to be put in a certain box so that you can be validated, or your art can be validated. And he says, all these terms, conscious rapper, deep cat, all of that stuff, all those terms, he was like, cool, you can call me that, but for me, I'm just making the music that I like.
I love that, because
You know?
I love the fact that you highlight that, because I think that is the trap that a lot of creatives fall into. And it doesn't matter, you don't necessarily have to be a musician to feel that way, because, you know, we're always like, judge me by my work. If you have respect for me through my work. But you also then take on the other end of the spectrum, where if people don't like your work, then they don't like you. But because you've put so much power in their hands, as far as identifying you and how you create, now if people say you ain't dope, now they're like, I really am not dope.
And more importantly, I think it's the lesson that I'm getting out of that is just do the stuff that you like.
True.
You know, let yourself be open, right, to hear what people say. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, when you play that beat, when you play back whatever you've done, that's gotta be like, woo! I'm this guy's biggest fan. You know what I mean? And that's where it ends. That's where that's the ultimate deciding factor, whether you like it or you don't. Everything else is just secondary. And I love the fact that he's never been too concerned. He's never been too concerned with what the outside thinks.
Yeah.
He always seems to be driven by what he wants to do and what he likes, and it seems to be working for him.
And maybe it'll work for us. So don't get too caught up in the noise that is around you. I like to call it the noise, because you get so focused on it, you forget your why and you forget your focus. So it's just gone 5 minutes before we hit 7 o'clock. We're going to give you Apollo Brown featuring Oddisee with a joint called The Times, and then we're going to carry on. Class is officially in session. It's nice here at home. Only on the Element, 5 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're officially in the second and final hour of the show. What you tripping over? Hear your own voice.
No, ish.
The imaging.
There's a instrumental there, but anyway, it's fine. I should have told you in the beginning of the show, but yeah, it is what it is.
Where is it at?
There, underneath, somewhere there. I think next door.
It must.
No, on the other side. Yeah. There we go. Now I'm happy. Hey, I forgot, man. Hey.
All right, I promise you it's not always such a mess right here on The Element. We actually do know what we are speaking about, and on tonight's Producer Spotlight, we have been taking a look at Oddisee.
Yes.
And where we're going right about now is we are looking at how he was introduced in the game.
Yes.
And other cool things. So
and he became a member of Low Budget, right? Low Budget is Kev Brown's label. And last week, right?
Your superstar week.
Last week I was on fire. That's because I really love Kev Brown, man. I feel like Kev Brown needs like a statue, a Hall of Fame.
Last week you were what?
No, I was happy.
I was on fire.
I was Nikki Fisa.
No Fisa, telling us about Kev Brown, telling us about Nas.
Yeah. And I mean, we have so much to learn from people like Kev Brown, from Oddisee. They're obviously all from Washington, D.C., creating a movement there, you know. dope that DJ Jazzy Jeff came through and gave Kev Brown, you know, his whatever his resources were, and obviously that caused a ripple effect, you know.
Right.
And I mean, Oddisee, make no mistake, he's very well established amongst his peers, right?
Yes.
But he, like, without low budget, you know, there wouldn't be like a solid foundation for, you know, knowing the ins and outs of what happens in the game. I mean, he's very he comes across as very well educated anyway, but I do know that there's nothing that's better than experience, you know. When you're in studio with these cats, when you're in a space where you don't really know what's going on label wise, it's always good to have people around who do have experience and who can help you move to the next level. So shout out to the people that came before him and paved the way. You know, it's so important. Even here in this country, we need to acknowledge the people that paved the way and still continue to do that. People like Slicker. Slicker does he call himself Slicker?
No, he's now Sia Metan.
Oh, sorry, yes. People like Sia, you know, he's done incredible work in terms of, you know, building from the ground up and, you know, making some, you know, mark about this hip-hop, South African hip-hop stuff. Stogie T goes without saying. He also opened a lot of doors for many people, and he's still here. So shout out to all the OGs who aren't shy to share information, who aren't shy to put people on, because we need that. We need so much of that. And
do you know who I think also does it well? I wouldn't necessarily say he's an OG just because he's not that old, even though he's been here for a bit. KO.
Yeah.
KO is super good at that. And I also say that just because, for instance, I bumped into KO somewhere and he like took a good 5 minutes to chop it up with me about me. And I was like, wait, what? You don't have to do that for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't work for you. You know, I'm not your mentee. None of that. Yeah. But I just find it to be such a really incredible quality. Also, people like Zubs. Yeah. Zubs also has time for people, and I think it's such a good quality. It also reminds me of one of our previous producer spotlights where you're speaking about the importance of mentorship as well. Absolutely. And I think that's absolutely important. And I think that people need to find the balance between make your own way and figure it out, but also we did this, it didn't work, maybe don't do this, or here are some of the things that we have learned through our journey that could be beneficial towards you. Because there really is enough pie. No, there is. If you actually work hard enough, I think there's a space, man. There's a space to just pull through and make your mark. I love that you mentioned KO, because when I think about that era, the Skanda Republic era, he did not come out by himself. You know, as soon as that Skanda Republic 1 came out, the label came straight after that. And man, what a beautiful time. Even now, like the catalog. That catalog, you know what I mean? Like for me, like when you listen to the music that was made during that time, you know, look at people like Muzi, they're still here, you know, Kid X. These people were involved in KO's like blow up, you know? Right. And we need more of that. We need so much of that in the game 100%. Where we can share this pie. We can definitely share this pie. And just to wrap up on KO, he's still doing that. If you look at Skanda World, recently having signed Just Beggy, DJ Mr. X as well. And they recently put out this long list of, okay, so-and-so's dropping here, so-and-so's dropping there, so-and-so's doing this, that, and the other. And I think it's such a cool way to approach things. And it inspires the rest of us as well to not go alone, because we do want to go far, as the African proverb says. But back to Oddisee and back to some of these cool things. There's a note that you made in the stuff that you shared with me today, and I went, hey, what? Who? He did work with who? And then tell me about that. Okay, so we played earlier a song by Joey Badass. Shh, Gonja, what's the name? I'll tell you. Please tell me the name of the Sorry Bonita. Sorry Bonita, featuring Pro Era Joey Badass. Yes, produced by Oddisee. So he's had some notable production credits, and I'm interested. You know, I actually want to pose this question to you. Damn.
Like just
when the teacher asks you a question, but
no, I mean just off of your knowledge, right?
I'm not scribbling
there's
on
no
your paper.
right answer. There's no right answer. It's just what you think, right? So when a producer comes to you, or rather, let's say an artist comes to you and say, "Yo, I love your stuff, blah blah, let's work," right? And then you guys work on 2 or 3 songs together, and you move on. Cool. 2-3 months later, your homie releases an album, and you're not on it. You know, it's like, okay, cool. So, how would you treat that situation? First of all, would you be offended by the fact that, you know, your work has been sidelined? And secondly, do you think that, okay, now that it's not going on the album, are you entitled to charge the artist for the work done?
First of all, I'm the most sensitive person on the planet.
Okay.
So initially, my initial response is going to be, what do you mean I didn't make it on the album? So that'll be my first reaction. But also because I know I'm so sensitive, I like to. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of people that are around me that advise me on things that I go to, and I often will go, "Am I tripping? Am I being sensitive about this? Can you give me a different perspective?"
Yeah.
So that would be the next thing that I would do. And I know a particular person would say to me, go have the conversation, because we can speculate till the cows come home, but go find out. Maybe it's not that it wasn't good enough, maybe it just didn't fit the overall vision for that particular project. Maybe it could be something that's going to be used later on, or maybe there's just a different plan for what you guys worked on, but it doesn't mean that you are not dope. So I would go then have the conversation, and I think from that conversation then we'd be able to determine, am I going to be charging or not, because now we know what the grander idea is. That's me.
Okay that's dope. That's really really dope. Let me tell you what usually happens in real life, right? You do these you do these collaborations, and it's not until the album is dropped that you see any kind of money, you know. And that's cool. Like I respect that, you know. It reminds me of Kendrick Lamar's All Right video. When it starts, there's a song, like a snippet of a song where he goes, "Sound wave, yo, turn that," and we don't know, none of us, you can't find that song anywhere. Like you can't. But apparently it's still coming, you know. It's still gonna be on some other Kendrick album, right? So I think that's where we are in the music game. Like unless it's released, then we can't be having a money conversation, right?
I didn't know that.
That's what happened with Oddisee and J. Cole. Right, so he did some joints with J. Cole while they were out in London, you know, did some really really cool work. And at some point, if you also remember this correctly, that he decided that I'm gonna produce my own
Yes.
See? So he produced the whole thing.
Yes.
And I mean, Oddisee goes on to say that he wasn't offended by it, you know, at all. He completely understood, because he's a producer artist himself, you know. So maybe something like a life event happens, and you decide that, okay, cool, I want this music to take a certain direction.
Right.
And you just eventually decide that, yo, you know what? Let me go this way on my own. He's also got a Kendrick Lamar production credit, and yeah, like I'm excited to hear that, you know, like because the sound, like if you listen to a lot of Oddisee's production, it has a lot of live instruments. It's like he's band orientated, and I love that kind of sound. I said this last week.
Yes,
you know, the song that we played, Kev Brown's latest release, that you can tell that like it's influenced by a live band setup, and the same would apply for Oddisee's production. So I'm very curious to hear what would happen when an Oddisee would collaborate with a Kendrick Lamar. Yeah.
So on what we're speaking about, Mr. Instro, I have a question. What happens, for instance, when songs end up not being released for so long? Like, what generally is happening in the background? Because now
Yes.
I hear some of these conversations, or I hear songs and it's like, oh my gosh, this joint that I just dropped the other day, it's actually 10 years old, and you're like, what do you even mean? Or something is played and it's like, oh no, I'm still gonna drop it, but it's from like 2008,
Yes.
2007. Apart from maybe an artist feeling like they're not ready to share it with the world or whatever, what is happening at that point in time that something that we worked on, let's say, and we wanted to release in the foreseeable future, then gets put on the back burner for a number of years? And then what happens in between myself, if I'm the artist, and you and you as the producer? What is happening?
To be honest, nothing. Because when you're a musician, when you're an artist, you just keep working. I guess there's the general idea that you must always be working on new material, and releasing it obviously needs timing, and that's where you add your business, that's where you add your marketing. But in general, if you're a musician, if you're a producer, if you're an artist, if you're a rapper, you must be making new material every day, because there's new things to talk about every day, you know. And I have personally seen that, like, it's dope to stack, to have things in the vault. It's always helped me when we're in impromptu studio sessions where you're like, oh man, like, does anyone have beats, or let's do something. Then at least I know that I can get some stuff out the vault. But I think it does get complicated sometimes, because you'll find that especially the producers, they'll get like frustrated, because a lot of the time it's the artist who has the deal. It's the artist who have like a set plan for what's going to happen to the song. Just like the example I made earlier about Soundwave.
Yes.
He was saying also that, like, yo, I actually have no idea when this song is going to come out. But, at least it sounds like he has some sort of agreement, or he's had some sort of conversation with Kendrick about that song.
Yeah.
For them to even shoot something on it should say that a conversation was had. And I think that's all it is with artists. I mean, if it's art, I don't think there's too much formalization that needs to happen. You know what I mean? If you're saying, okay, cool, yes, this is a great record and I want to keep it for a certain amount of time, you should be able to say, cool, let me work on something else, because you're a creator.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mike Dean also says that. He says, yo, I control the music doesn't control me.
Yes.
So if it happens that my hard drive crashes, I'll make other beats, you know. And by the way, if your hard drive crashes, Askis, like, that's the most heartbreaking thing that could ever happen to a music producer, because we love to store, we're digital hoarders. That's what we do. We keep things, we keep samples, we keep drum packs, and that's pretty much part of the art of being a music producer. So as much as we can create at any time, it's also important to be good at storage. It's good to just keep things with you. And another advice I have to give producers, this advice is that keep the separates with you. Don't give away the separates before there is talk of a release, because when you give away the separates, that's when you'll find that it'll either get stolen, you'll hear somebody rapping on your beat and you don't really know what happened, or the music will be completely released, mixed, mastered, and you have, like, no one told you. Right. Do you understand? So it's always important to keep the stems, keep the separates, and then you'll be able to have the money conversation.
All right, it's just gone 20 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're going to take a music break. That's where we at. We're going to take a music break and then we're going to come back and there's two interesting things that Mr. Instro wants to tell us about Oddisee before we shut it down. Wang Makatsa, because not too long ago, I'm not ready for an hour. Here we are. 25 minutes after 7 o'clock. It's all for the love of hip-hop. It is the producer spotlight with myself and Mr. Instro taking a look at Oddisee this evening. And the last 5 minutes of the producer spotlight. Shocking, Mr. Instro. Oh my God. Wait.
It's crazy, man. This is too much fun.
It is too much fun. And I like that each week it gets better and better and better.
No doubt.
Okay, so this is the part where I must really, really, really pay attention because it's the part that makes me frown the most. Let's get into the technical stuff.
Okay, I love that you gave it that intro because it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Okay.
Right? The technical stuff is not as technical as people make it out to be. We're living in a beautiful digitized world that makes sure that things become easy. You know, people like us, we were bamboozled. We were bamboozled into going to school for these things, you know, like studying sound engineering. Those things, like, you can like just watch somebody and then just emulate, and then next thing you know, you're doing it, you know. And yeah, no, I'm not trying to take anything away from school, but like, man, there's nothing like the school of YouTube. There's nothing like the school of mentorship, like having like real life experiences. Those are like the real things. Okay. And then technically Oddisee uses Pro Tools.
Okay,
right?
I know Pro Tools. Yes.
He uses Pro Tools and he comes from the analog phase, right?
Okay.
He comes from that because obviously bands, you know, but we've learned that it's actually much better to digitize, you know. We are in an era where you can literally travel with your studio.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take much these days to have like a nice compact microphone, a beautiful sound card, 4-channel, you know, for your instruments, for your vocals, and obviously have your Pro Tools, your Cubase, your Ableton Live, whichever DAW that you like. And with him, you know, he just made me realize that, you know, sometimes we get stuck on sentiment, you know. like if we're being real, like there's no reason why we're supposed to do analog. Like there's no real reason outside of the aesthetic of a recording studio. There's always that, like just being in a space where, you know, big booth, big microphones, big space and whatever, you know. When you're shooting, that stuff looks beautiful.
Right.
But truth is, if you're trying to get some rhymes on wax, I mean, come on,
right.
You know, all you need is the things I mentioned earlier. And I love that he's an advocate of that, you know, to say, yo man, I don't really need much, you know. I had like a 3,000 deep record collection, but you know, I left all of that at my mama house, you know, because now everything is digitized. If I'm looking for a sample, I just either go to YouTube or go to any other place where I can get it, you know. And I sort of agree with him now, you know, to say, man, guys, I'm not saying let it go, but I'm saying that we're moving, you know, we're moving on to better ways of accessing software to help the recording process to be much more stronger, for me to be able to control the atmosphere, you know. And there's so many microphones that we can choose from that can actually give us that, you know, that sound that we're looking for, you know, that thick and wholesome, you know, vocal that will make it on a big record one day, you know. Even when you're recording from a hotel room or even in your own bedroom, you know. As much as we can talk about presentation, we can talk about aesthetics, all of that stuff. If you're trying to make a song it doesn't have to be that complicated.
It doesn't have to be that complicated. All right, Mr. Instro, I'm going to give you 2 more minutes and then I need you to go away. So,
okay. Yes.
The producer spotlight, we're about to shut it down. All right, there's 2 more things that I think are super, super interesting. And you mentioned it to me before we even started doing the show.
Yes.
The not swearing.
Yes.
As well as the use of the N-word.
Yes. So, he first decided on the album The Good Fight. Right, where he was like, nah, I'm too lazy to do clean versions. No, I didn't say that. But like, just having to do clean versions is a nightmare, man. I can relate, I can relate. I was listening to Snoop's album this weekend, and I was like, damn, man, I feel sorry for whoever is going to do the clean version for that album, because like they swear so much. Sometimes it's like, but why? Like there's no real context to what's happening. And Oddisee says that he doesn't swear because it's like there's more vocabulary, man. Like it's so much better to be able to express yourself and to say what you actually want to say in the bar, and more than anything, I think it's just concentrating on making the song. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the rhymes are important, yes, the beats are important, but like how is the song though? Right. You know what I mean? And also like I mentioned earlier, it's just about listening or creating what you like, what you want to listen to. And I can relate to that as well. I've got an unreleased album, by the way, called The Light Future, where there's nobody, right? There's nobody that swears. Like it's all like clean music. And it was, don't look at me like that. I'll maybe one day, maybe, who knows. But
what is that?
Maybe one day. That's like,
why
that's timing. It's timing. It's like, you have to be in the right space to be able to release that stuff. Yeah, it's us artists being snobbish about our art. But anyway, yes. More than anything, it's important. It's important for you to judge by the song. Judge the whole thing, and by not making it like explicit, it kind of gives you a more objective way of judging the song, and I love that.
Okay, Mr. Instro.
Yeah, and you won't have white people using the N-word. You won't be performing there. You won't be performing at a festival, and now you're distracted by these white folks. I mean, innocent. They're just enjoying the song, and there they are, just taking you back 400 years. It's like, okay, maybe it's my fault. So I thought that was a good reason, like just not to use the N-word. That's a good reason. Like, you don't want white people reciting your rhymes and using it.
All right. And I think that's where we can close it off. Thank you for rocking out with me today, Mr. Instro.
Thank you.
If you behave yourself in the next 7 days, I'll sing for you next week. Next week, maybe. Today. Right now, we're going to give you Low Budget All-Stars to officially wrap up the producer spotlight. Thereafter, we get into vintage hip-hop, where we take a look back at the classics, because like Mr. Instro just said, it's important for us to look back at where we come from and the pioneers of this culture that we love.
The Producer Spotlight with Mr. Instro.
You can be a beat maker and not be a music producer. But when you're a music producer, you don't have to be a beat maker.
Only on the Element.